All right, we're back with Market Sense. Let's focus on the fundamentals and get in Anil Rego, founder and CEO of Right Horizons, who joins us right now on the show. Anil, good having you. Thanks so much for taking the time out and accommodating this interview request. What's the sense, Anil? A lot of people are believing that the uptick that we saw in the market yesterday, part of it had to do with the belief that the RBI may do some rate tinkering. That hasn't happened. Is the sense that we may actually start a trajectory downwards again, or we stay stable at these levels?
Sure, I think let me first spend a little bit of time on the RBI policy. I think there were two parts to it. One is, in terms of the cost of funds. The second in terms of availability of funds. So I think at least the RBI has taken care of the second part of it with the SLR. And I think that was probably a bit above expectation as well. I think what has not happened, is the tinkering on the interest rate. At this point, the way I looked at it, a quarter basis point lowering of interest rates would have helped a lot more on sentiments than on anything else, because that type of cut would not have had too much of an impact. But I think that's the whole issue, that the whole market is waiting for the right signals to happen. So the RBI has now pushed everything back on the government and said that now the government needs to take care of its policy side things. So whenever the expectation was already built up and a strong rally yesterday, I would believe that there would be some bit of cooling off. I think we need to see, I'm not sure it will be very extensive, partly because I think one of the concerns, which is liquidity, have been positive, with the SLR cut, and so I think it will be a flattish to maybe a marginally down situation. I'm not expecting a really major sell-off. One would hope that the government comes back and reinforces with various policy changes, with spendings on infrastructure, etc., which I think the a country very badly needs.
So Anil, what do you think is going to be the key driver now going forward? Do you think it's going to be the lack of monsoon, some policy reforms coming through, or are we going to hinge purely on the earnings season?
Sure, I definitely think that there's some bit of issue on the way reforms have been moving. So I think a lot of eyes will be on that, and I really hope that the government uses this opportunity. I think once now on the back foot comes out and has strong movements happening, even if it means just we're talking about infrastructure spending and many of the stalled projects, etc., coming into seeing the fruit of light. Okay, so that is something which one hopes that the government starts taking policy seriously. I think once Manmohan Singh has come back into looking at and overseeing the finance side, definitely there have been some positive vibes. We hope that reflects into action actually, and that's what I think we are all hoping for.
Anil, what about banks? How do you think they will do? Because some of the PSUs have taken a sharp knock post the RBI not tinkering with the rates really. The likes of a Bank of Baroda, SBI, it's essentially the larger ones which have taken a deeper knock. What's the call now? Because the results also have been all over the place.
Correct. I think PSU banks especially have taken a bit of a beating there. There are a lot of other concerns on asset quality and stuff, and interest rates being high, it continues to add pressure on some of the PSU banks. However, I think over a slightly longer term, the SLR lowering impact actually can have a positive spin-off, and they would be able to lend a little bit more, and so that would add to their margins. So I'm not so sure that it's a huge negative for banks. So I would at the same time be a little neutral on banks, wait for some clarity to emerge, and maybe on dips probably look at getting in.
And let's also nail it down to some specific stock ideas that you like.
Sure. At this time, possibly one would continue to look at large cap defensives. So one would maybe the ITCs, the Dabas of this world, etc., are definitely things which you should have in your portfolio. I also think that banks like ICICI, which has been a favorite for us, and is done pretty well despite the conditions, etc. I think a lot of fundamentally things happening there within the bank. So we like stocks like ICICI Bank.
Okay, so that's the call on some specific names as well. Anil, just one final word on what did you make of some key numbers that have come out over the last 6 to 7 days? Anything that has particularly caught your eye, maybe by virtue of outperformance or underperformance?
Well, I think, if you look at various sectors, IT has been all over the place. I think pharma relatively, has shown performance. So that's the other place that I think is seeing some bit of action. It's also a sector to look out for, considering, a lot of drugs coming out of their patents, and, I think a lot of launches will come in on generics. So pharma is also, I think, something which has been positive. FMCG again has, on the whole delivered pretty well. So interestingly, it's coming back to the same, defensive have continued to do well in this current, volatile market conditions.
Anil, the other bit is, what about some of the agrarian stocks? Because there is, of course, an EGOM meet today to talk about the likely impact of drought as well. And the RBI governor in his statement stated today specifically that because of the drought situation or poor monsoon, the crop prices are increasingly going higher. What's the call therefore on some of the agrarian stocks, be it sugar, be it tea, because the management after management have come out and said that the prices are not likely to go down?
Sure. I think it depends on the type of stock and how they are playing on the agri side. A lot of the fertilizer, seeds, etc. I think one needs to be a little bit cautious because one needs to see how much sales will happen considering a weak monsoon. Sugar stocks probably will continue to, I think, do well, and prices globally as well. Some of the sugar companies also have global facilities and access. So that is also something which would do well. Not too many stocks that you have purely, which are agri stocks to, play on, the price moves of some of the agricultural commodities. So at the same time, one needs to see what is, let's say, the volume impact. Let's say if you look at something like a coffee or any other like a tea, for example, do the monsoons really, have an impact there? And while you may have better prices, will that result in a lower volume? So at this time, I would, be a little cautious on, like I said, fertilizers, on seeds, etc. But on agricultural commodities, I think that should see some bit of strength.
Anil Rego, thanks very much for taking the time out and joining in with that fundamental view on the markets as well as those stock-specific ideas.